these issues, technical issues that it's taking a bit longer than we expected to solve. Hopefully you've used your time wisely to get some emails done and grab a coffee. And now we're back. We're back with Iolanda, and let's get to it. I don't know, Iolanda,
Sorry for all the inconveniences.
Iolanda, you're muted.
All right. You cannot hear me? Strange.
Oh, no.
No, I'm not mute.
Can you hear Iolanda?
Can you hear me? Yes? I can continue then?
Yes, now it's working.
Okay. So I think that if I recall well, we were here. No, life is like riding a bicycle. No. So 3 years later, 15 minutes later. So as I said, sorry for these inconveniences. So sometimes, there are also launching products, deviations, problems, unexpected things, that's why we always try to be prepared, for the earliest best case scenario, but sometimes, also to consider other scenarios like baseline or worst case. Life, we need to be prepared for that, especially when we are planning a launch. 3 years later, 15 minutes later, I was trying to explain my experience, so when I was appointed as a launch team leader, and with no experience in that role, but I discovered, in 2014, 3 years later, when AstraZeneca acquired all this franchise, and the respiratory franchise from Almirai. So when I moved to AstraZeneca, it's when I really discovered, what really means, to be a team leader, what really means a team, and high-performing team. I will go quickly, but through this, but this is another takeaway for you, Can you think about, or can you explain the difference between a group and a team? I don't know if there is a quick answer, or maybe you can just take this question, for you, but there is a big difference, again, there are many different ways, to visualize, a team. We can see a team like a group of individuals, working together, at the same level, maybe here with a different color, the leader or the leader inside, other people that can draw a team, like, people that are following, a leader, or maybe here just the opposite, the leader is pushing the team, or other people see like the leader, at the top position, in a more hierarchical structure. I like to draw teams like this, that everyone sits in the same table, different functions are all equal, all are necessary. Also, I like to draw teams, like this engine, that if one of the pieces is not working, then the whole engine, it's not working, I also like to draw teams. I can see also people, people that are drawing teams like this, that kind of network, people connected, with all these interdependencies. But we can also see teams, different teams, like celebrating things, hands in hands activity, or climbing a mountain. We can see this type of images. Of course, teams are different. It's not the same to work in a small company or a startup or a big corporate. It's not all the projects needs the same level of resources. I've been leading these teams with in different layers, with core members, and then also providing global support activities. Then we have also these full ad hoc members, and then we have also the extended teams, with the local local representatives. So, but this is also a picture, probably you have already seen, this type of pictures, with these human castles. We need a structure, we need resources, we need people, organized people working together, with this collaboration, with this, with different type of roles, functions, and skills. And it's important to understand that a team, if we look here at the beginning, we are only single individuals that are coordinated or managed by a manager or a project coordinator. If the project evolves, then this group of people or individuals will become a working group, a team, and maybe at some point a high performance team. The function of the leader is to create these synergies, to align all the efforts in one direction and to help the team to accomplish the goals. For you, for the ones that are interested in team development and leadership, it's good to know that, and I really like these Tupman's models, that to develop a team needs time. So at the beginning, we are single individuals, we are a working group, then probably we will need to overcome these storming phases, because there will be tensions, different ways of working, different egos, different styles, different understandings. So when we finally starting working as a norming, with norms, rules, processes, a clear view of what we want to achieve, then finally we will create this real team, and at some point the high-performing team. To do so, we need first, to establish clear goals, to establish this internal cohesion, in order to achieve, the desirable performance, and always, we will need to build this, with trust. It's time, so it requires time, to develop a team. It's a question of time, and I discovered 3 years later, when I moved to the big corporate, to AstraZeneca, what was the meaning of a high performance team? It's the status that of this team, when they don't really need to work with a leader, so they can manage they know exactly what they need to do, how they need to interact, and then the function of the leader is not longer needed, So that's one of the message, the leader needs a team, but a team may not need a leader, So this is important for you, that life, the projects starts and ends, teams start and ends, and also leadership maybe could be also related with a specific moment in your life, So that's also important, to know. And for me, always, as I said, I consider myself as a servant leader, leading by doing, leading by example, and setting an example, as Albert Einstein said, it's the only means, of influencing others, So I think I'm fully agree, with this statement, So that's how I also consider myself, But coming back to the epicenter, the epicenter, the most important, if you want to lead a team or you want to inspire others, it's first to understand who you are, just looking you at the mirror, So just understand the inner levels, and then, how to resonate and how to translate this, to the outer layers, the private and public layers, So how just to create, everything starts, like in the epicenter, It's like the earthquake, It starts in the middle, in the center, in this self-leadership. So it's super important first, for you to look at the mirror and say who you are, which are your attributes, your skills, how you can inspire others, and then, to make it visible. Leadership, That's also part of this presentation. That's also something that I wanted to share with you. Starts with self-leadership, recognizing our own strengths and capabilities, and put them at the service of the human community. And especially strong leadership plays a key role in women entrepreneurship, of course, in men as well. But recognizing who we are, how our skills, so looking yourself at the mirror, this is just to understand your emotions, your feelings, your beliefs, your values, inside out, so inner, outer layers, and yes, and me, it's a bit similar like this, if you have seen the movie, I can see, me reflected like this, I'm a very passionate person with a lot of energy, with lots of ideas, like a light bulb, I'm quite fast, with global vision, which is good, but also could be bad. So it's important, as I said, to understand yourself and say, okay, this could be beneficial for the team, but sometimes we are also interacting with other people, that are different. So it's important to understand how other people, to put on other feet, on other shoes, to understand how other people feels, and then maybe to measure these skills and use it only on benefit of the rest. And maybe sometimes it's good for you or for me to understand that I need to reduce my level of energy, or maybe my speed, or maybe to accommodate myself also to the team needs. Yes, who you are, which are your attributes, So at the end of this presentation, what I would expect, is that you send me the list of all your superpowers, Me, I think I'm optimist, I'm natural optimist, generalist, I'm imperfect, I'm not perfect, maybe I'm too hard on me, self-demanding perfectionist, and which is not good, but I'm like this. I'm trying to improve. I'm a very people-oriented person. At the end of the day, I can provide vision, purpose, strategy, planning, details, but I know that only teams, can make things happen. So launching a product or a service, it's just the sum of the efforts of all of this team work. I'm thinker, but I'm a doer, making things happen. I think that as I was getting older, I think I consider that I'm a risk taker, but also a problem solver. I prefer the proper planning rather than the firefighting, which is usually quite common, in our days. And I'm passionate. My values, mantras, advices is never ever give up on your dreams. It's hard work. All the things, in life, needs, working hard. Life and world has different colors, different musics, different languages. So it's we need also to have this to have this in mind. Maybe if we look at the sky, we cannot see the stars because we are in a very polluted city. But if we go to the urban areas or maybe the rural areas, then we will discover that there are stars there, So the stars are always there, So maybe it's where we are that we cannot see, So we need this critical thinking. Maybe I have an opinion, but maybe it's not the right opinion, Maybe there are some noise that doesn't allow me, to see, what the stars are, So it's important, we are living in a very noisy world, with, in a very fast and an accelerated world, So we need to see that sometimes there are stars, So effort, global vision, critical thinking, but integrity is important, no? Peter Drucker said managing is doing the right things, leadership is doing the right things. So it's more important doing the right things than doing things right, no? So the right things are the most important. But also Clayton Christensen, another important professor, speaker, and a great mind, no, said that the most important, no, that management, no, is the opportunity to help people become better people, no. And I think that's why we are here, no. So we all are here to help, no, each other, no, to become better people, no. As I said, leadership is not a position or title. Leadership is an action, no. So to help people, no, to become better people, no. And leadership is doing the right things and helping others, no, to achieve their maximum performance as individuals and also as a team organization. Then, in capital letters, no, big size, the team is the most important, no, and leaders, no, we are here to helping the team, no. One advice, no, if you are leading teams or if you are in these senior management positions, no, I would really recommend, no, it's to develop individuals, but also to develop the teams with the heart and the soft, no, with a clear vision, with a clear detailed plans, with tools, providing tools, visibility, planning, support, but also with the soft part, no. So it's important that they also understand, no, the different superpowers, no, of each individual, how to work together, no. And that's one of my advices, no, to develop individuals in the teams, but also to develop the whole team, no, how to working together, no. So that was my experience first, no, in Almira, 3 years, no, but then when I moved, no, to AstraZeneca, and my situation changed because I was working with remote teams, not with also with cross-functional teams, but with more global culture, no, and only in remote, with high staff turnover, multi-projects, multi-managers. So the way you lead, no, in this organization remotely, it's different, no? Because you don't have these formal interactions. You cannot have a coffee, no, with your team members, no, because you have people, no, working, no, in different time zones, no, different countries, no, or with multi-projects, with other priorities, no. So it's a completely different thing, no, when you work, no, depending on the settings, no, on type of the organization. It's also another takeaway for you, no. So you will need to adapt your leadership style depending on where you are, no, the type of company, the type of project, the type of team, no. And accommodated, no, to this the environment, no. In case of working in remote teams, no, the complexity is even higher, no. As I said, maybe teams or team members can have different managers, different locations, different communication channels. What happens today, no? It's not the same, no, a one-to-one, face-to-face meeting or online meeting. Because sometimes we have IT problems, no, and then different interruptions, different problems, no. So we need to ensure, no, that then the communication, no, has been delivered correctly, you know, with maybe additional support or additional information, different time zones, different culture, languages, ways of working, no. And also a lot of connections, disconnections, no? So we need to understand, no, the level of complexity, and then we have to work accordingly. Just to end up, because I'm just trying to finish, no, because I know that we are a bit late now with all these technical problems, but the most important is to understand who you are, no, who are the team members, core team members, no, the sponsors, no, the levers, no. Also, always, no, regardless the type of setting, no, keep it simple, no, simplicity. We are in a VUCA world, so keep it simple and smart. Always try to establish a good communication with vision, with global vision, no, show, don't tell, no, keep it simple. It's important, no, in this fast and noisy world, no, to repeat. The repetition is good, no, that everybody, and ensure that everybody understood and have the same understanding of the project, the goals. Then train, and the training induction will compact. It also helps a lot, no, when we have new people on board. Always to clarify the functions, who is who, celebrate any single milestones. Yes, it's important, no, to celebrate everything. Clarity, no, with provide clarity as a leader. Important, no, to provide this clarity, the clear communication, the celebration. Big celebration, we can here see, no, some of the big celebrations, no, of the team. As I said, I delivered more than 150 launches. Key success factors, measure challenges. Yeah, important here, no. I remember when we had this, when we were preparing this presentation with Marc, no. Say, Iolanda, can you also explain a bit, no, about the challenges, no, biggest obstacles in innovation? Probably you are all familiar, no, with this gap, especially, no, with the Death Valley, no, with you know, how we can translate how we can do the translation, no, from the government, universities, no, how we can you know, make our products, no, introduce our products in the market in a successful way. There are always no gaps, no, this innovation gap. Just for you, maybe, because I think it's good to also to know for you, the same, exactly the same happens, the same problem, no, we face in the companies, no. So if you look at these surveys, no, the biggest obstacles, no, to a higher return on innovation in the private sector, in the big corporates, it's always, no, this lack of R&D and commercial connections, no. So collaboration is always essential. We always need, no, to connect the R&D, the development teams with the business people, no? And this is exactly the same problem. So it's not only the startups, it's also, no, in the companies, no? One of the biggest obstacles, no, is that people in R&D and people in business usually don't talk each other, or use different lexicons, no, or they don't have the same understanding, no, or the same view of the project, or so that's why a new product introduction, this phase, it's very important. It's key, it's essential, because are connecting both worlds, no, the R&D development and also the business part. Okay, overcoming the barriers to successful R&D, no. So when no, R&D lacks connection to the customers, no, the R&D groups tend to be isolated. This also happens in the companies, not only, no, in the open innovation. There will be crises for sure, storms, conflicts, discrepancies. Probably, yeah, we will get at some point exhausted, tired, or more than exhausted. Don't panic. Always, always, always. My recommendation is, okay, ups and downs. Try to keep you know, positive. And leadership, if I can just summarize leadership, no, as a leader, no, so try to be resilient, servant leader, no, humble, try to be also inclusive, no, empathize with your teams, doer, no, leading by doing, no, authentic with your imperfections, always doing the right things, ethics, no, loyal also to your team. Also people, no, person, no, and passionate about what you are doing, no. Be grateful, real, authentic, and I know that we don't have time to listen, no, now the Coldplay Viva la Vida, but maybe today, no, later today, no, you can listen again this energizing song, no. And that was when I ruled the world, no? So you are leaders, you are ruling the world, and remember, no, the so I'm really bad at singing. A day without laughter is a day wasted. So have fun, enjoy your journey. Last remark. This is a physic that was born in Valencia, but he's also rector emeritus of the University of Luxembourg. And I would like to share his thoughts. No, we need a new model, but we don't know which one or where to find it. Perhaps it is time to empower women. That's a society in which women has as much power as a man had until now. Will be a different society. It is almost certain. That is that it will be a society less based on aggression, violence, and war seems very plausible. That it will resolve crises in other ways with different measures is more than expected. That is that this change would represent a true social innovation is evident. No, that it will be a more efficient and satisfactory society in times of peace. It is to be expected. So that's me. See you soon. Enjoy and thank you. Yeah, that's it. Sorry.
Go listen Viva la Vida now. Go listen.
Takeaways. Yes, I want just to see the takeaways.
Anybody in the chat?
Yes, please. I don't know. One takeaway from this session, but you.
Everybody's saying like, thank you, Iolanda, very inspiring, very interesting. Iolanda, I want to know what you do to go from firefighting to proper planning. That's a good...
Project management.
That would be a good word.
A lot of project management. Proper planning prevents poor performance. No, I'm not joking. I'm, as I said, I'm not a soccer fan, but I'm a fan of project management. I'm really a project management practitioner, so combining different tools, but proper planning for sure to avoid firefighting. Trying to, as I said, using what-if planning or risk assessments, yeah, always there will be always deviations, unexpected things, major things. Shit happens like today with IT. But if we plan properly, we will reduce this, or we will at least manage better the deviations, which is also important.
Thank you very much, Iolanda. So I think we can carry on. So actually, I'm gonna present myself or introduce myself because it's now my turn. I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna talk about, or I'm gonna introduce some of the. I hope you can see my screen. Can you double check, please? Is it working? Anita? Thank you very much. So I'm gonna talk about. I'm going to introduce some of the concepts that we're going to share during the Epicentre Academy. So this is just some insights on the kind of content, on the kind of things that you're going to find if you apply to Epicentre and if you go together with us through this project as we are leading the Epicentre Academy part of this project. My name is Albert Rivero. I'm a chemist as well as Iolanda, although I jumped quite sooner to the business side. So you all know that starting a business is challenging, and in fact, like many startups fail to achieve success despite having great ideas or even talent. Okay, so during this session, we're going to try to address why this happens, so why startups fail, and to do so, I'm going to start with some figures. That is that. First takeaway is that the EU startup ecosystem is boiling. The number of new startups you see here in blue has been growing exponentially in the last decade. So I think that this is great news, and we can see that as well in funding, in investment. there's a lot of momentum. People invest in innovation. People invest in new ideas. And in fact, another takeaway here is that we need to innovate. So innovation is more needed and more present than ever, basically as a key element of competitiveness and at the end, long-term sustainability. Although maybe this investment trend is going to change now with inflation, which brings us back to the initial question of what can we do, or why startup fail, and the second question here, what can we do to avoid this or to make it better? Because as we saw in the first figure, there's a shadow here. There's this light red shadow, which are failed startups or dead startups, and we can see here just on a qualitative way that the shadow is quite deep. It's not small. And in fact, if we look closer, for example, to US data, we can see that only 40% of startups make it past a Series A round. And if we look deeper, or like what general statistics say, the figures are quite alarming. It says like 11 out of 12 startups fail, and we can translate that into innovation project, like product innovation, as Iolanda was mentioning. There's failure rates are quite high. So just imagine if we could make this more efficient, or how can we make it better? So that's one of the key points of the Epicentre Academy, and one of the key or good tools to improve these ratios is through lean startup and lean experiment methodology. That's what we're going to be introducing later, and that's part of the Epicentre Academy program. But well, at the end, maybe these figures are not that strange. At the end, what is a startup? What is a startup? So startup is not a newly established business, or not only, but a startup is in essence a business experiment at the end. So it has potential of success. And as all the experiments, they're based on assumptions, or they're based on hypotheses. So startup, what is a startup? Startup is a business or an idea that is trying to find through experiments and through working or doing things, if their hypothesis, if their idea, if their innovation has a gap or has a market fit at the end. No? And so by definition, so what this means is that by definition, real startups are prone to failure. The more innovative you are, innovation is related to risk. So if you are more innovative, your assumptions are riskier, and then you're prone to failure. At the end, it's nothing wrong with that. What is a bit alarming, or what's a bit worrying, is the main reasons of startup failure. So if we have a look at CV Insights, that they do a survey or top reasons of startup failure, we can see that the first one is that startups run out of cash. They fail to raise new capital. So, well, I do think this is quite, this is not surprising. And in fact, poor burn rate is one of the main startup killers. So, as an entrepreneur, one of your key obsessions should be or is keeping your costs low, trying to increase or to reduce the churn rate, or try to last another year, to try to last another month. So it's not surprising that main reason for failure is that startups run out of cash. What I do believe it's quite alarming, that the second reason for failure is there's no market need. So the second reason why startup fails has nothing to do with if the economical or financing management is better or worse, or if the company has team with a lot of skills or without that many skills. It's because, or if the team is able to develop a viable product or not. It has to do with that the startup has not found a market need. So basically, nobody wants what the startup is developing. So and I don't know if you can think of any case, not only startups, maybe this also happens in big companies, that that have failed in their innovation process. I'm going to point out some of the examples that you may or may not know. For example, in the 80s, Colgate launched a whole product line of frozen products. And it was a resounding failure. Nobody could understand why Colgate would ever start doing food. No, it's just a concept that people were relating Colgate with another kind of products, and just the marketing did not work. We have more examples. We have McDonald's trying to launch spaghettis, Cheetos tried to launch like a lip balm. We've got Cosmopolitan doing yogurts. Pepsi did a quite harsh campaign, trying to sell their products or their drinks for breakfast. So they did like a Pepsi AM version. But the thing is, people drink coffee in the mornings. They don't drink. Well, a lot of people drink coffee in the morning. So that was again another failure. And if we look at a recent study by Van Bensking, his thoughts were that, their findings were that 3/4 of innovations fail because there's insufficient market demand, or because the innovations did not work well enough for the customer. So you thought you had a great innovation, and then you test it on the market and it doesn't work, either because people don't want it, they don't have this problem, or it doesn't fulfill their expectations. So this brings us to an empty beach. Sometimes it can happen that you cannot find the market need. But how's that even possible? How can we get that happen? How can it happen? Because finding or identifying a market need is quite cheap. So it's actually the cheapest part of running a startup. What's hard is, the technical, building a product, prototypes, blah, blah, blah. But then my point is there's easy ways to identifying market needs and to really see if the customer has a problem. And that's exactly the base of an innovation methodology that we're going to apply during the course, which is called Lean Startup or Lean Experiment methodology, that is basically focused on approaching innovation in a systematic way. So basically testing your business idea, your business model through experimentation, testing your assumptions. As I was mentioning before, startups are business experiments. So they have their experiments, they have assumptions. You need to test these assumptions. And then working on getting customer feedback is essential as well. So what happens normally in a startup or maybe in an innovation project as well? You do this. A lot of startups, they keep their hypothesis from themselves, or they spend a lot of time and money developing their product, and they keep developing, and then when they get to a point, okay, let's launch this, and then they fail. They fail because they didn't really check with the market what they really needed. They didn't really had an interaction with the customer. They assumed a lot of risk, and they spend a lot of time building things. And then when this happens, when you spend a lot of money and a lot of time building your prototype or building your product, and then it fails, then you need to go all the way back to the beginning most of the times. No? So in contrast, Lean Startup methodology, what it stimulates is that you should start by testing small and testing cheap. So instead of going all the way, doing all your development and spending a whole bunch of money and time, at the end, time is money and money is time. The other approach is to start testing small experiments, trying to keep it cheap and trying to validate your assumptions as soon as possible. And we're going to get into that a bit late. So what are assumptions at the end? What are these experiments or these hypotheses that the startups have? So an assumption is something you take for granted or that is accepted as truth, but you don't have the proof. So I would like here to spare a moment of all of you, especially if you have startups or if you're developing an innovation project or a process, whatever, that you think of what hypotheses or what assumptions you have in your own startup or in your own project, and whether you're really validating this hypothesis or which kind of hypothesis we're validating. Just, we have no time here to put it on the chat and so on, but just as a wonder thing, okay, my startup, we are doing IT, as we were seeing later in the chat. What are your hypotheses? And what you can do next is you can put this hypothesis in a matrix, because there's different kinds of hypotheses. There's hypotheses that you know and that are not critical, something that you're sure and it has no real impact. But what's really important is identifying these key hypotheses which are or assumptions which are unknown and critical. And this kind of hypothesis is the ones you need to focus on. And that's what we're going to do during the Epicentre Academy program in the first launch phase. And then the next step that we're going to do when we get to that during the course is put these critical assumptions in the Lean experiment map. So the Lean experiment map, it's basically a structured way of trying to solve this hypothesis, or trying to find some evidence that validates or invalidates this hypothesis. So there's a methodology that we're gonna use to do that, and so on. But really, we don't have time to have a look at that right now. But going back to the assumptions, as I was mentioning, there are different types of assumptions, and we can see here in a graph that basically, well, in this slide, we have three types of assumptions. We have assumptions about desirability. So basically, do our customers, or is there somebody that's willing to pay for what we're doing? So do they want this? So do we have customers that want to buy our solution? The customer really has a problem that our solution can solve. How these customers solve this problem today? That's kind of desirability questions, and then you can narrow it down to your business vertical. But that's the kind of questions that you should be asking yourself when talking about desirability. What is the outcome of our customers that our customers want to achieve? Will our customers stop using their current solution? So this is some of possible questions or topics related to desirability. Then we've got feasibility. That's basically, can we do this? And this is what everybody focuses on. All startups, especially if they come from a university, so if they're a spin-off or a technological company, that they come from a research center, and as I was mentioning, from a university, tech transfer, their main focus is feasibility. So can we do it? They're technical mindset. Technical mindset people, minded people tend to focus a lot on feasibility hypotheses. And then, they're great on doing hypotheses. They're scientists or IT. They can program or whatever. So they're good at it. They're good on identifying which are the technical challenges, or what's good and what's bad about our platform. What can we do, etc. Although they do lack sometimes some of the longer term feasibility questions, or okay, what is there? Do we have regulatory risks, or something that is in the long term? For example, or where does the funding come from? Okay. And then there's some people or some startups also focus on viability. That is basically like, should we do this? Or so what's the strategy? What are the main acquisition channels? What's the life cycle of our customer? How will we identify new customers? How this solution supports our vision, etc. And then most of the times happens that Desirability is is the forgotten kind of assumptions, because sometimes or many times people are scared of asking questions. They're scared of going outside and having an interaction with the customer, having interaction with a potential customer, or basically asking questions or revealing information about their business idea. But actually, desirability hypotheses or assumptions are the easiest to test. They're the easiest. So knowing if or asking questions whether a customer has a problem or not, or if they have a pain, are trying to identify exactly what this pain is without trying to sell your feasibility hypothesis that you keep this. This is sometimes that this is something that not a lot of startups do, and not a lot of startups do well. And I'm going to put an example here, which is related to a drone company. So a startup, let's say Cirrus, it's called Cirrus, and their main, so when they launched their product to the market, and when they started their business idea was, they realized that while drones and camera and spectral imaging, it was a boom. They had the technical knowledge of using this kind of information, and they wanted to apply it to farming. So their idea was, so we're gonna grab a drone and we're gonna put a hyperspectral camera on it, and we're gonna have the farmers with controlling the drones and getting through the fields to collect images and generate data. So that was the business idea. So when they started, thinking about, okay, what's the next steps, they did their assumptions, because all startups have their assumptions, and they had like several kinds of assumptions. They had a first assumption that drones can deliver usable images. So it's a feasibility assumption, isn't it? So if it's technically possible to do this. And then there were several other kind of hypotheses. So if data can be presented to farmers in a usable way. So basically, it's again a lot of feasible and feasibility thing. Farmers will use the data to treat their fields. There was another hypothesis. Another important hypothesis was farmers struggled with diseases and fertigation. Software can stitch together field images. Farmers have budget for our value proposition. So if they're willing to pay for this solution. There were hypotheses whether farmers wanted to forecast their production. So, okay, so what's the use case? No? Here we were mentioning that's generate data. Okay, but what then? What's the use case? Another important hypothesis that farmers were interested in data about their fields and crops, because here you're assuming that the farmer has not enough information to do their job or that your solution really can make it a lot better. But it's important to know that, well, if farmers are going to use or want to see data about their fields or not. And then other hypotheses were based on, well, if they were willing to share data for cloud processing, more feasible, or if they're willing to pay for data, it's a good one. Or that if relevant data can be extracted for images. Again, here we identify some questions regarding feasibility, and in that case, the startup focused on trying to solve these or trying to, solve for themselves this feasibility question. So they started developing to see if, okay, let's see if the drones can deliver usable images. Let's see if we can make a software that can really stitch together these field images. And let's see if we can extract data from images. This is like the secret sauce. The core business of this startup was doing so. So, I mean, it's important to start validating this if you have the capabilities and if your idea is technically feasible. But this is expensive and this takes time. Building a software that can stitch together these images, making the drone prototype, seeing how we can process this data. This takes a lot of time, and time is money. And here if you start by analyzing this hypothesis or trying to test this hypothesis, you're incurring into a lot of risk. Instead, what's interesting is that from all the hypotheses you can do, you can apply this to your business, and we're going to do it through the course. From all the hypotheses or assumptions you have, try to sort them out between feasible, desirable, and viable, and focus on the desirability hypothesis. Because testing desirability is faster, it's cheaper, and it is a must. It is a must. We've been seeing before, the second cause of startup failure is there's no market need. So it's important that you make sure that your solution or that your product is solving a pain point from the customer. But obviously, when you're starting a startup, you're aware of that you need to solve a problem and you need to have a customer that wants to pay for it. The problem is that most of the times we don't ask directly to that customer whether they really have their problems. So most of the times their desirability hypotheses are there because you really need them to start working on the feasibility. You need a problem to solve. But again, most of the times these hypotheses are critical, but they're known. We believe they're known, but they're known because we haven't really had the real interaction with the customer and ask them really some relevant questions, not trying to sell your technology, but asking about their problem and asking about how they're solving this problem now and asking for their desired situation and so on and so forth. So if we go back to this startup, what happened when they started testing, or what happened when they started applying lean startup? It happened that their business model changed completely. They had to pivot completely. So their value proposition changed from drones delivering crop data to focusing on irrigation insights that grown farm profits. Farmers were not interested in knowing data, if the field was green or if it was dark green or light green. Farmers were interested in this case in irrigation and basically on insights that can grow farms' profitability. So they were focused, or they had interest in optimizing these farms. And again, another key pivot that they found was the channel. They thought that, and basically the drone. They changed the drone for an aeroplane for flight services companies, because they found out that direct sales was not a good channel because farmers had 1,000 other things to do rather than spending a morning going through the fields, controlling a drone, trying to take the picture. So it was not really a good channel. So they had to pivot to, in this case, aeroplanes from another provider that they could fly regularly through the fields, and then have completely different business model. And in that case for Ceres, things went well, and they ended up winning some prizes, and they ended up getting 35 million in funding, and they ended up with 2.5 million revenue in 2019. So this is a really short and simplified version of or example on how lean startup can help your company focus on customer needs, focus on desirability hypothesis, and trying to validate these assumptions first. So what we're gonna do during the course, as I was mentioning, would be, so we're gonna select the critical and unknown assumptions, and then we're gonna go through ways of testing this, of validating this hypothesis. And what's it's important, as I was mentioning, is focusing on desirability hypothesis first, because they're cheap and easy to validate. Technical feasibility hypotheses are hard to validate. You need money, you need time. So it's important to focus it that way. And there's many ways that you can validate this hypothesis. You can do focus groups. You can do you can do an ad, just depending on the business time. Right? You can build a landing page if the customer would like how you're presenting the solution. You can do a small prototype, not even a prototype, you can do a prototype. So basically a really simple prototypes of how are the main features and how is your solution solving their problems and so on. So I really think it's a great takeaway, or as a good exercise that you can do prior to doing the course. If you're not aware of these methodologies, thinking from your own company or from business on the kind of assumptions that you are facing, or that you have, and then prioritizing them. Either they're critical, non-critical, unknown. Because this is an essential first step to then trying to focus on the ones that you don't know, that you don't know. Then what will happen when you start doing this process and you start talking to customers and so on, is that you're going to realize that there are hypotheses that you don't know. So it's a way also of identifying new needs, identifying new challenges, and so on and so forth. And as I was mentioning, a really good way of validating these desirability assumptions is through customer interviews. Customer interviews or potential customer interviews are cheap or free to make, and they're quite easy. The main problem is that people lie. So basically, don't believe what customers say, because people lie. They don't always do what they say. They don't always say what they think, and they don't always do what we expect them to do. So it's really a matter of asking the right question. And I'm going to paraphrase Henry Ford, that he said back in the day that if he had asked people what they wanted, they would have said that they wanted faster horses. So it's really a matter of asking the right questions. And here I'm gonna give you just some first tips on kind of questions that you can ask during these customer interviews to focus on desirability hypothesis. So it's good not to start by saying how good you are or how good your solution are, but start by trying to find some insights about your customer problem. So tell me about the last time you had this problem, or in which context. So what was really the challenge? What was difficult about it? Why was it hard to solve, or how do you solve it right now? And what could you do better, or why wasn't not correctly, or why wasn't it awesome, as it says here? And when you start doing this, probably, hopefully not, but can happen, that you're gonna get punched in the face, as Mike Tyson said here. That everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And really, using lean startup methodologies to validate desirability hypothesis first is a way of getting punched in the face, soon. So it's good that you have then time to react, and then you have time to spend your money and spend your time on what's really important for the customer, and not only not only focusing on the feasibility hypothesis. Because as a key takeaway, I would like to end my presentation by saying that customers don't buy products. They don't buy your products. Customers buy solutions to problems. So wrapping up at the end, lean startup methodology is a great tool to try to maximize success of innovation projects and startups. There will still be failure, obviously. As I was mentioning, startups are new business experiments, so they're prone to failure, and that's how it should be. If they're innovative, they're prone to failure. But still, there are ways of trying to maximize this success ratio. And during the Epicentre Academy program, the training program, some of the modules of training are going to go into more details on how you can apply this to your solution, or to your startup, to your SME, to your consortia. and so on. So we have some mentorings, we have some boot camps coming up. So I really hope, that this small introduction to Lean Startup has rung a bell to your own startup, that you have some takeaways or some things that you can really apply. I would recommend start trying to identify these hypotheses and really do to try to see if the hypotheses you have are really validated or not. Because what you cannot do again is say, yeah, I've got this hypothesis, but I know exactly what's the answer to this hypothesis. That yes, there's a lot of market, there's a lot of everything. A key aspect of Lean Experiment Map is that you face hypotheses in a systematic way, and it's like an experiment. Like if you were in the lab, that you have some experiments you need to do, and you need to establish some metrics or some KPIs. So this is the tough part, and we're gonna help you through the program to deep dive into these methodologies, and hopefully this will help you build more prosper or successful solutions, or also successful collaborations with startups. So here, that's all from my part. Thank you very much, and we'll see you through the program. They're saying through the chat that we cannot hear you.
I guess that you now can listen me. Hi, hello. Hello, can you listen me? Yes. Okay. So good morning. Thank you everyone for joining this meeting. My name is Marc Milian. I'm working in WORSLEY Acceleration Services as Albert, and we have been supporting startups and working in the entrepreneurship ecosystem for a long time. Initially, we launched an acceleration program where several startups went through, supporting them to develop. And later on, we focus on supporting big corporations to collaborate with the startups. And today what we want to do is to share our point of view of this collaboration between big corporations and startups, and we will focus a little bit on these partnership agreements and part of the legal issues. And in order to start in this topic, I would like to place some background about the topic, and I would like to share which are the main challenges for corporations when talking about innovation. First of all, it's about the strong pressure for radical innovation. You know that products life cycle is every day shorter, and the standards change too fast. The speed of transformation is really big. As soon as a new standard appears, all of the companies need to get it, because if not, they lose clients, like social networks or different channels to communicate with clients. All of these innovation need to be in place very fast. And then disruption is also the new normal. When adopting disruptive technologies and new business models, people is faster than ever. Some time ago, we talked about early adopters, early majority. We had those curves about first people joining or adopting your solutions. Nowadays, people go much faster than ever. And you know that when a new application is launched, all of us, it's done. Adopt it immediately. We don't need to see what happened with that, if the others are doing or not. Everybody takes or adopts this solution very fast. And then nowadays, disruptive innovation is a powerful source of competitive advantage, because of globalization. It's difficult to differentiate each other. And then this kind of innovation can support this competitive advantage. And then also disruption comes from everywhere. We may be working in a specific technology and then appears another one that changes completely the focus or the way that we are solving a problem. Or maybe we're solving a problem with the technology and then appears another startup that launch a new business model, which is not a technology, but solving the same problem. So this disruption is coming from everywhere in terms of geographies, technologies, approaches. So it's happening everywhere. So disruption is the new normal. And then there are several mega trends that shape or that changes the competitive environment. We can talk about urbanization and mobility, sustainability, climate change, globalization, digitalization. There are so many trends that companies need to be aligned with them, and because they make that new opportunities emerge or new markets that they do not yet exist and become opportunities that we need to capture. So the world is changing, and we have to develop our organization or develop new business, new value propositions to make sure that we can profit of those changes. So this is the background. This is the situation for corporations. And they could solve that with their own internal innovation or the R&D departments, but there are several issues. One of them is that they used to focus in the core business. And then the areas of knowledge is limited. They don't know about all of the technologies. They don't think about all the business model. So the knowledge in the company is limited. And then the discovery areas, the areas where we put our budget or our effort are predefined. So there is a plan and everybody's focusing in those areas. But as we said, innovation is coming from everywhere. And maybe we are focusing on a specific area, but then the solution comes from a different technology or a different approach. And we cannot cover everything. Another thing that happens is that the speed is an important attribute. Because if you want to catch trends as they emerge, we need to be very fast to identifying them and then proposing solutions or services and products. And also, if the internal innovation takes a long time, this is an obstacle for delivering these solutions, but also for getting returns on this kind of innovation. And then if you want to take advantage of being the first mover, speed is also very important. So this is the situation, that there is a strong need for the rate of innovation, but when working internally, we cannot cover these the requirements, or there are some issues which are important. So then is when appears the collaboration with startups. And here is when people or corporations say, not today, but some time ago, why should I work or collaborate with a startup? We are a powerful corporation. We have lots of resources. We can approach by our own, which is the need for that. Now, and the answer is that we cannot ignore startups because they are everywhere. They appear reacting to market opportunities that appear because there is a change in regulations. For example, in sustainability, several regulations are changing when using plastics or other things. So they react to that, and maybe it's because of regulations, but it's because of the trends or the habits of the consumers or new technologies, exponential technology appearing. So they react to those opportunities and appear from everywhere. And we need to engage with the startups as a source of opportunities to disrupt in their markets. And sometimes, or a long time ago, also the corporation should see them as agents of disruption. So they don't like startups, but the key thing is transforming them into engines of corporate innovation. We should to incorporate startups as an engine in our process. And this is important because they contribute in different dimensions. Breadth is one of them. We said before that we cannot cover all of the areas. We cannot be focusing or putting resources in all the technologies, all the geographies, and all of the approaches possible. And startups are everywhere. And then there is the speed issue. If we decide to develop something, it takes time. But for sure, there are startups that have been working on that for a long time. They have a huge advantage respect us. So they not only are they have more speed than us, they are faster than us, but they already have run a long way till today. So we can go faster collaborating with a startup that trying to develop a new solution. Then there is a specific talent. So when we're talking about technologies, for example, and we talk about blockchain, NFTs, and all of that, you want to be in that market. We don't have the talent in the corporation, but is in the startup, in the small companies, and we can use them when collaborating. And then there is the legacy issue. If we want to change or to get into new markets and maybe with new business model, sometimes we can hurt current business, and then it's difficult to change, but we need to start working in new markets. And the legacy is a problem for big corporations, and startups, they don't have this legacy. And finally, I would like to highlight that there is a strong startup support ecosystem. Nowadays, there are several public programs like accelerators, and in the research centers, there are several resources to support the development of the startups, the small companies. So the ecosystem is very strong. When you approach a startup or a big corporation approach you, the situation is that it's quite the development level is quite high. It's not like several time ago that the managers, maybe they don't know how to act as a manager, there is not the right organization, it's not clear which is the plan. Nowadays, because the startups receive a lot of support, it's easier to fulfill this collaboration. So this is the reason. That the fact is that corporations need startups, need companies like you to collaborate, to be to get into new markets, and to develop, to be more competitive. So this is the fact. Then is when putting together the best of two worlds. You already know about that. So corporations have significant resources, large scale systems, the reliability of the brand and the customer base. So it's for sure is very good. And the startups have some other attributes which are also very interesting for corporations. The innovative ideas, agilities, a willingness to take risks. You already know. But there are also some challenges. There are cultural differences. Organizational speed is different. And to highlight the fears to collaborate openly. Often I understand that the startups or the small companies, when getting or having a new technology or new approach, something is very, very new, they are afraid that the big corporation may take on that and they can lose everything. No? There are some fears that we can manage that. And the point of view of the startup or the entrepreneur is first of all, when collaborating with a corporation, it's great, no? Because there is the capital always is welcome. Then there are some insights or technical resources that can be very good. Maybe you need a lab to make some tests, and they have the lab, they have the machines that you may need, so it's great. Then they bring credibility to your business. There is a really go-to-market process, or you can make a pilot with them and give access to experts, specialized equipment, as we said. That's wonderful. But there are some points that sometimes can be a concern for the entrepreneur. One of them is the freedom to pivot and to collaborate with other companies if it's necessary. And because if a corporation invests in a startup, and then the startup needs to change, because as Albert explained before, they when testing or asking to clients, it's not the right approach, and they need to change the way of working or the value proposition a little bit, or the channel or whatever, maybe for the corporation is not good, because when making the decision on investing, it was because of a specific reason or a specific business. So then maybe if they invest in a startup, they can stop this kind of changes. Then is in the same way, there are affairs about the hidden agenda, that maybe that used to happen long time ago, that some big corporations invested in a startup just to stop the development of a new technology because it was starting their own. This is another fair. And finally, the main fairs is about the IP. And that is fair that the corporation could steal this knowledge. This is when talking about investing in startups. If we look to the history of this kind of relationship between corporation and startups, and we look to the traditional approach, the traditional way was to get equity, investing in them. And that started long time ago with the aim of monitoring some technologies that could change the rules of the market, influence their decisions, and developing more those technologies or not as fast as the startup would like. Sometimes trying to stop the development, but mainly it was about getting financial returns. And because of that, and the historical waves of corporate venture were related to the capital markets. Initially in the 60s, the growth of this stock market and financial success of independent venture capital investors make that big corporations also wanted to invest in startups and then going to an IPO to get the financial return. But when the market collapsed, that stopped. Later on, again, when the reduction of capital gain taxes and other changes in regulations make it easy to invest in them, again, another wave looking for financial returns that when the market crashed, stopped. Again, in the 2000, long growth with internet companies of that till when the bubble finished. Again, that was done. If you remember at that time when starting these internet initiatives and all that, there were big bubbles, big corporations, the IPOs were amazing till it crashed. Later on, after 2005, there is a new wave, but the main driver, it was not the financial returns, was getting innovation, because they started to see that the change was coming so fast, disruption was changing the rules of the markets, that it was not enough with the in-house innovation. The globalization challenge also, and then many new technologies overreaching the industry. So these new cycles were focused on innovation and in emerging markets, not as much in these financial returns. And then is when changed the traditional approach that were based in trying to copy the way of the venture capital companies with a completely different organization, trying to find the right opportunities, investing of them, that was working well. When they decide to focus on innovation, not in the financial, is when appeared another way of collaborating with the startups. It was not investing, it was the collaboration, a new paradigm. If we need a speed and agility, and this is why we want to work with the startups, if we go for the traditional corporate venture capital process, it takes a long time. So if we want to get this in disruptive innovation, we need to develop more agile and rapid ways to engage with the startups community. We cannot go with this kind of the scouting of startups, identifying them, then the due diligence, then closing the deal, and then being in the boards and making the follow-up of startups. That takes a long time and requires a huge investment. So then there appeared this new approach, which is about not investing but collaborating, that replaces equity with shared technology or collaboration, and it makes to reduce the cost. You don't need to invest, and you are faster and more agile to connect with them. And in this case, you balance the speed and agility, which is what we're looking for, which is good, but we need to know as a corporation, or corporations in this case know, that they lose control and the strategic direction. That in some times, like long time ago, it was important for them. Nowadays, corporations will need is this to get this disruptive innovation. So they prefer the speed and the agility. So this is why I emerged this kind of departments looking for open innovation with the aim of collaborate instead of investing in them. And when talking about collaboration models instead of investing, there are different models, and we talk about license agreements. We can or the corporations can act as a venture client for the startup. It's possible to build a joint venture, and getting participation, getting equity, is also a way of participating or collaborate, but it's not the main one or the unique one. It's another one, and probably it's not, as we said, it's not the more agile. And then any other collaboration agreement is possible, all of them. And sometimes when people talk about this collaboration with corporations and startups, and they talk, when talking about models, people talk about hackathons, mentoring programs, an incubator, an accelerator. Those are not collaboration models. Those are ways to get in touch or to get to know some of startups. Some big corporations, they develop the incubator or the acceleration program in order to make a call to attract startups, to get to know them, select the best ones, and then develop a collaboration model. This is the difference. So I wanted to share with you all of this background, because when talking to corporations to collaborate, you know what are they looking for, which are the reasons, and how to manage conversations with them. Now, if we focus on the legal and IP, I would say that there are two main situations that we need to manage. First one is in the initial conversations. Because normally corporations, they look for startups that are maybe facing one of the big challenges of the corporation. So the challenges is identified. So they start to look for solutions. They make a scouting of startups. They find several ones. There are some of them that fit with their needs. So the corporation contact them and want to get a better understanding of the solution if it really fits with their need. So when we start those conversations, we need to sign a document. This is a document that we suggest to regulate this part. Later on, if we decide to make a pilot, a proof of concept, and start a collaboration to test if this solution works or not, we will sign a partnership agreement. That is the next slide that we will talk about that. So first point, when there is initial contacts with the corporations or the startup, both of them, depending. In some cases it's the corporation, sometimes it's the startup. Everybody talks about the NDA. Let's sign an NDA. That's fine. It's for sure is necessary to sign this NDA, but it's not the only thing. We've seen that's important and helps a lot to sign from the beginning a letter of intent. Because it's important to declare the interest in collaborating together, but with guarantees and trust. And if it's clear what we're expecting from each other from the beginning, later on collaboration, or we want to make a pilot and all that, it's much easier if things are clear from the beginning for both parts. This is why we suggest to sign this kind of letter of intent that includes the NDA, and there are some things that are binding and others which are not. First of all, it would be this declaration of interest, where the both companies declare the interest in collaborating and the limitations, and which is in the interest of each part. So it's about sharing expectations, what we expect, and then which is the next steps that if we keep collaborating, we think that we should put in place. So this first part is about sharing expectations, and expectations is not a compromise, so it's non-binding, this part. But it's important being clear about if we collaborate, what happens later. For example, we want to know your solution, because if it works properly, we may think about licensing them in our territories, or maybe we can become your client, or maybe if it's interesting, we can set up a joint venture in a specific region. So it's important being clear about which are the expectations. And then with all of this the declaration of interest, it's important to add some other concepts that most of them are binding. Some of them may not, but most of them, yes. Of course, we need the confidentiality agreement, the non-disclosure agreement. It's important, of course. And then also the intellectual property rights. Maybe it's important to explain that you can ask the corporation to recognize your IP, saying, okay, there is an NDA, okay, but you recognize that I have a knowledge in this topic about this technology, and that I'm going to share with you because of the expectations that we have shared before. So it's important, this recognition of the IP. So you can ask corporations for that. Then corporations may ask you for the right to the first option, saying, okay, if it goes well, the pilot that we make, if it goes well, I want the first option for commercializing your solution in these markets. This can be binding or not binding, depending. They can ask for preemptive subscription rights. If there is in future capital increases, they want to have the option to get in the capital. And then other topics which may be necessary about privacy and personal data sharing can be included here. Another point important for small companies and startups is including not hiring employees of your company. Because if they look for a specific, the corporation looks for a specific capacity, knowledge of that, there is an option for them to hire the people who knows about that. That don't used to happen because a corporation that hire a person in a startup, their reputation goes down immediately. No other startups will talk to them. But always it's good to include that kind of clauses in these kind of contracts. So this is what our suggestion is, not only signing the NDA, but start signing this kind of letter of intent and some other clauses when starting talking. And then if we get an agreement, everything works well, and we're happy working together, and we decide to make a pilot, is when we can sign a partnership agreement. Not we can sign, we must sign a partnership agreement. This is very important. And here there are some illustrative concepts about the things to be included in this agreement. Obviously, the objective, the project plan, the scope, milestone, the organizational structure, because it's about the resources that we will put when making this pilot. This is important for the corporation, making sure that there are the resources, but especially for the startup or the small company. Also making sure that the corporation will provide the resources that you need for making the pilot in their plant or facilities or whatever. Of course, the duration, and duration has many things because it's the total duration, phases, and other related concepts, the cancellation, renewal, etc. But then what's important is about the obligation of the parties, which are our obligations as a startup and the obligations of the corporation. So which is the resources and assets that we contribute for the pilot, just has to be very clear, and which are the tasks that each part will make, and which is our commitment on that. This is the obligation or not. Corporations will ask for the obligation of the startup to provide a licenses at the end of the project. If it works well, the pilot, they want to make sure that then they can get this kind of license. And they may ask to become an obligation for the startup. And then if we look to the rights of the parties, is obligations and rights, depending of the way you look to that, can be one thing or the other. But it's important, the right for corporations is very important, and they may ask startups and small companies for first option or first negotiation for using your solution for getting the rights in an area. Maybe a license, or can be a different way. Then it's important making sure that it's clear how we will exploit the solution, because maybe the startup has a technology and then the corporation applies the technology in a specific industry. And so they decide that you're going to exploit together the result of this technology in this industry. So it has to be very clear how you're going to share the profit of that. if the startup has a software solution that the corporation is going to use that, but it's not making a big change, it's not in their processes, it's good, but it's not gonna explode to their clients, it's just for their own use, then doesn't make sense exploitation rights, but makes sense to suggest to them as a payment for allowing to make the pilot, to make the test, best conditions ever when using your software. If it is an option to compensate corporations for making for testing your software solution or other kind of solutions in their companies, if they are not interested in exploiting that. And then they can ask for preferential subscription rights, and then there are the right to information. In some cases, corporations ask to get all of the information of the pilot, all detailed information, in order to learn in detail how it works. You or startups can access or not to that right, depending if you want to disclose what you are doing or not. Then there are things related with the image rights. Some corporations may want to that everybody knows about that pilot, or the opposite. And maybe for the start, it's very important making sure they can explain that they've been working with this big corporation. So that's another thing. Then it's about penalties to be included here, and it's for corporations. It's very important to make sure that the pilot ends and you get all of the objectives of the pilot. But sometimes happen that the startup doesn't finish for many reasons, and then they should ask for clauses that manage the breach of this contract. And normally it's not an economical penalty, because they understand the small companies don't have the money for paying these penalties, but they may ask for losing the rights of the IP generated during the project or some other rights. So if the startup doesn't finish or doesn't deliver what agreed, they can lose the rights acquired in this contract. So it's an important part. And then about the intellectual property, it's about the recognition of that property. So which is the ownership of the IP contributed during the project. And then there is new IP, the IP that is created during the project. So we must agree before starting any kind of pilot within this partnership agreement, what's going to happen with this new IP created during the project, who is the owner, in what percentage, and who's going to exploit that. So this is an overview of these clauses, which is important when talking about this kind of collaboration of corporations and small companies or startups. And that's all what I wanted to share with you. And maybe as a closing slide, just remember that there is a strong pressure for radical innovation, and corporations need that, so they cannot ignore a startup, they cannot ignore you. And there are new approaches that replace equity with collaboration. And it's very important having a clear and fair intellectual property management process. As far as is everything clear, it's better for everybody. So for the corporation and for the startup. So it's important to focus on that. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Marc. Thank you, everyone. I hope you can hear me now, because I knew that there were some issues on my micro. Please let me know if you can hear me well. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so thank you very much for being here. We were about 100 participants, so thank you very much for listening and being in this webinar. Thank you, Iolanda. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Marc. As I already said, this is just the beginning. They will go through all the project, and they will be there for trainings, boot camps, mentoring, coaching. So it's going to be very interesting. Thank you again for being here. Thank you as well, the team behind, Rosa, Andrea, Jamie, thank you very much. And I wanted to encourage you to apply. You have the QR code in the screen, so you have there the webpage where all the details. So thank you very much for being here.